Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Unity tutorial. In this one, we're going to be going into Unity's event system. If you don't know what it is, it's basically the thing that handles all clicks on the screen in terms of like UI, buttons, selecting different things, going between this, maybe using your arrow keys to move up and down menus and so on. And you can also use it for clicking and dragging buttons. There's so much stuff. We're only going to be scratching the surface, but by that I mean like there's so much in this that you'll never use. So I'm going to cover all the stuff you'll use most of the time, right? It's like the saying about 20% of the things does 80% of the work. That's basically what happens here. So, yeah, if you are using the event system, the chances are you won't use much more than what I'm covering here. But if you do, it'll be for, usually very specific purposes. Unless I've missed something which someone could mention below. But I'm going to cover the things that I've had to use a lot, basically, and that I've seen other people use a lot. So I want to start off by saying thanks to Paul Robinson, Phil Bourne for being donators on my Patreon. Thanks for all the support. If anyone wants help out, then the link is in the description below. Apart from that, let's get into it. So, the event system, what is it? Where is it? Well, some people might not even realize they've got it in their project when they're using it because it just kind of appears. So basically, as soon as you create a UI component, so basically a canvas, because if you try creating any other UI element without a canvas, it'll make it. Oh yeah, forgot Text Mesh Pro is actually included in this. I'll do a video on Text Mesh Pro, maybe next video, I don't know. 3D text. Oh, they've actually implemented that in Unity. Hey, I've not used the new Unity version a lot yet, but that's pretty cool actually. I'm guessing you can give it a depth. Sorry. Tab size, font size. Anyway, let's not get distracted. So, if you create any UI element, that apparently didn't count because it's a mesh, but anyway. So let's go for, button or canvas or whatever. So canvas, you will also see that an event system gets created, which, you didn't tell it to get created, but it did anyway. And you can delete it and nothing's going to happen, except from some things on your UI won't work. It assumes that when you create the canvas, you want the event system, which you pretty much do. Just keep in mind that if you create like UI in your first scene that persists to the next scene by having like don't destroy and load, unless, just make sure the event system is kind of in the hierarchy with it, because if it's detached and then you go to the next scene, the event system might not be in your next scene. All you basically need is an event system in the scene. Doesn't matter where it is, just as long as it's in your hierarchy somewhere. It's nice to have it persist, and you don't have to remember, like, oh, did I put it in that scene or not? So it's helpful in that sense. So as you see, the event system is just an object, just an empty game object, sits by default, origin. And it has two components, the event system and the standard input module. Now, if you didn't guess, well, the standard input module is very similar to the actual input module, because, well, not module, but sorry, if I go to the, they've moved it all around, haven't they? I haven't actually looked. I don't use the new version for my own work. It'll be on the settings bit then, won't it? Yeah. Okay, so if you go into settings input, these are all the default inputs. You can add your own, remove them, whatever. And you have a horizontal, which is by default A and D. Obviously, A is positive because you go to... so A is negative to the left and D is positive to the right. And you've got vertical and all that. So by default, this uses that. So it says, by default, our horizontal is the horizontal of this. By default, our vertical is vertical of this. But you can change that. And what it means is, when you have, for example, UI buttons in a list, you can click on them and scroll. But what if you want to use your arrow keys to move up and down or something on the UI? Because a lot of games on PC use arrow keys to move around. And for example, if you're building a game for a console, the majority of console games, as far as I'm aware, I mean PC gamer, but it's pretty obvious. To get around the UI, you don't have like a cursor that you move with the joystick. I mean with the trigger words. You actually just move up and down every time you push the joystick. It moves the UI selection. Some games do have obviously a cursor, but it's a lot easier to use that. So if you're making a console game, then this is especially important. Just make sure it's all right. I'm actually pretty sure in the event system part there is something for doing standalone input module. So basically, oh, that's the thing we've already got, yeah. So you can add a second one and set that up for if you wanted PC and console. I'm not sure, I don't make console games, so you might want to look that up yourself or test around with it. But yeah, by default, all that works the same. So cancel means like if you're selecting, you can actually press like escape, which is the default cancel button, and it'll take you off it. Now, it's good me saying that, so let me show you just what it actually means. So let's say you have a game object that has a horizontal layout group. which basically just means that it's going to automatically align everything for me when I add just loads of buttons, basically. So UI button, let's just get one that we like the look of. Give it some text. Make it bigger. Whatever. Okay. Now let's say we have loads of buttons, so, boom. Now this horizontal layout group, well, obviously it's horizontal, so it's going to go off the end. Let's just have a few buttons then. We can tweak the horizontal layout group to be, I don't know. Yeah, upper center. And you can tell it to constrain the width so it's inside. Good. Okay, and then if we added more, it would shrink them. Now, by default, right, if we press play, these buttons aren't linked up to anything, they just exist. So if I press this button, you can see when I hover, it has the darkened like tint to it so that you know you're hovering it and it's registered. So if I click, you notice how that button stays dark. It's quite hard to see. The way I can show you easier is by saying this button's, well, all the buttons. Let's say the pressed color is, actually, is it? No, so the highlighted color is the that one. There we go. So we can say, all right, so the current highlighted one is the one with the darker color, okay? So I've selected that button, that's selected currently. Then I can press on my keyboard the right key to go right and left key to go left. So I can actually go around, and if I press enter, it presses it, you can see it does the press. And if I press escape, it should go off it. For some reason, escape isn't actually going off it. It did earlier. Well, fine, clicking off it counts. Unless I haven't got that as my cancel key. I don't know. But the point is, yeah, you can go around your buttons. Oh, that's just because I was moused over it, sorry. And obviously, if you press enter, it'll call the on-click. It treats it as an on-click. And yeah, you can tweak all this for the different settings, for what color is what. And navigation. So if I said navigation none, then first of all, you can't actually select one. It'll call the on-click, and I think it might count as selected in terms of the event system. I'm not sure if it does, but the point is you can't select it and then go around and trigger other ones. So obviously horizontal would mean, whoops, I'm moving around here now. So horizontal would mean that I press up and down. Sorry, horizontal is left and right. Duh. So left and right, that's what we were using. But if I pressed vertical, it should, when I press up and down. It doesn't actually do it for vertical. That'll be because they're not actually vertically listed. If we go and change this from horizontal to a vertical layout group, and then button, I'm not actually sure if I had them all selected when I change it to vertical. When I press up and down now, if I move my mouse out of the way, up and down, it goes between them. Nice. Left and right does nothing. Okay. And then you can also go on to automatic, which I think it just, it assumes what you're on. So if I change this now to back to a horizontal, it should, left and right works without me telling it. So, automatic is default, but you can specify, for example. And what if we had a grid layout group then? Grid. These buttons could be a bit bigger. And let's just say that we want to get some more buttons. Whatever. Now let's say, as you can see, the horizontal and vertical all work as I go around the selected buttons. It just treats it. It's smart. It knows what's next to what in terms of the hierarchy, and I can easily move around, say I want that one, up, down, up, down, up, down, left, right, whatever. So if you didn't know that, that's already pretty helpful. You might be able to implement that into your UI to go around selecting different buttons and whatever. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then the second thing, excuse me. So we now need to look at the events. So on click, obviously, if you didn't know already, any function you add on here, so you can reference a script and have a function, gets called when you click on the button. So like, let's say we go to the canvas and we add like UI handler, like just for this. Okay, so we've got UI handler script. Let's actually do this out of play mode so it saves. We'll have it be a grid layout group. after we remove this one, sorry. We'll have a grid layout group. Make the buttons bigger again. Let's just go for and let's just make it look a little bit nicer. We can add spacing like that and spacing like that, and we can actually just say middle center. Okay, so we've got all our buttons here. Now in the UI handler we can write a function, it has to be public, so public void button pressed, and when the button's pressed we might want to say debug.log. Well, actually, I always say debug.log is not a good thing to do in terms of efficiency. For just showing something like this, it's not bad. The way you could do it is you could write a breakpoint there, press attach to Unity, like I did in my debugger video. If you haven't seen that, go back to the debugger video. Then now if we go back to Unity, you will see that we can go all the buttons and tell them, when you get pressed, so select them all with shift left click, go to the canvas script UI. Oh, I didn't put it on the canvas. Alright, go to the UI handler and call button pressed. Okay, so now I put a breakpoint there, so basically when it gets called, it will it'll tell us, hey, someone pressed the button. It's just an easier way of doing debug.log, because you have to then change your code. Now that's nice, but one other cool thing is, what if you don't want them to have to click on something to then be able to navigate? What if you want them to just be able to navigate straight away? So what you can do is on the event system, on first selected, you could say, you want the first selected to be the top leftmost one. So if I press play now, you'll notice that without me pressing anything, the top left one is instantly selected. I should make it obvious again. Let me just select everything and say your highlighted color is just a bit darker. Okay, so now I've not pressed anything. Pressing play, and you see by default it was already on, and if I clicked off it, it deselected it. You can actually disable that, but let's just keep going. So up, down, left, right, yeah, whatever, boom, 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 press the buttons. Okay, so what if, for example, we want to go to the next thing? So we can, oh, by the way, interactable, a button is a base class of, there are higher classes that button derives from. There's one called is it interactable? It's selectable. You can't have it because button already is from that, but selectable is imagine if you wanted a UI thing that can be selected, but it's not a button. It's very similar. The button is just an extension that has an on-click function. So you can still have button functionality without the button script. The reason it exists is to make your life easier. But you can write your own custom code. So let's say when the button's pressed, I don't want to actually have an on-click, because what if you want the button to do something different if you left or right clicked? Okay. What if when you left click, it'll I don't know, change the color to green. If you right click, it changes the color to red, for example. Okay. And maybe it'll permanently change that color, because I can't be bothered going on the whole changing it forward and backwards. So this won't work, because on-click gets called when you do a left or a right click. It just gets called, okay? You can't handle it. You could have a function and then blah, 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 but the best way to do it is just not care about this on-click. You can go to the code here. Let's write a script on all these buttons, okay? Let's add a component, and we're just going to call it button color changer. Okay? So we've got this code, this script, and it's on every button, okay? Every button has it. And we're going to be using, as this video is all about the event system, using Unity Engine.event system, or event systems. And what that means is there's quite a lot of functionality you can do with this. So on the end of mono behavior, where it derives from that, you can actually add interfaces. And I've done a video on interfaces in the past, so I'm not going to bother explaining that. But this event systems part of the library has quite a lot of event systems. So if I do this is just all the ones that exist, and then there's some classes in there and stuff. But if we do pointer, for example, we have a function that gets called when the pointer clicks on this. The difference between pointer click and pointer down, as far as I'm aware, is pointer click is just as soon as you click, it counts, and same with down. But the difference is if you have a down and an up, they work together. Click is just for clicking. I mean, they're very similar, but if you read the documentation, they're slightly different. Pointer enter means like when the mouse gets in the region of the UI element, and then exit obviously gets called when you leave it. So let's say, for example, we want a I pointer click handler. It's going to be like, well, why is there an error? Well, it's because this thing requires this object, this script, to have an interface, which basically just means, because you've got the interface, it requires it to have a special function, which gets called when that thing happens. So what we can say is, we can say on pointer click. Now, this passes in for us event data. And event data, we can actually debug it to view it, is like all the data that the event system knows about this particular frame, and you can access all of it. You can do event system.current, and then dot, and then like you got all of this. There's more stuff you can actually see. But anyway, what we want to do is we want to say, if it's a left click, do something. If it's a right click, do something. So what we can do is, say, if event data, one of the properties is button. It's of type input button, which is an enum. So we can say if it's dot input button dot, and then we've got left, middle, right. So obviously it can tell you what it is. Well, it will have the value, and we can say, well, if it's left mouse button, do this. Else if event data dot button is equal to right. Obviously you could just do else, but then that would count for like middle click as well. So this is if you want special for left and right. And what we can say is, when you left click, let's have a renderer. We can say public. Do we want the renderer? We can just change the image color. Okay, well, we'll change the image color, which I think gets overwritten by this anyway. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll say public. No. We can have private button. So for that we'd have to be using Unity Engine.ui. We can have reference to the button, and we can just in the start private void start, we can just cache it here. So button is equal to get component button, and then when we left click, we can say button dot normal color. So we have to be colors dot normal color, and it wants to be of type color. So we can say equals new. Nah, actually we can just expose the colors and choose them ourselves. So we could say serialized field private color left click color, and then we can have another one. So we got right click color. I just want to put this below it because it's how I would organize it. Okay, so button colors equals blah 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 left click color. Cannot modify the return because it's not a variable. Oh, you can't actually set those. I actually didn't know you couldn't set that, to be honest. It's a get and a set. That's weird. Cannot modify return value selectable colors because it's not a variable. Well, what we can do is we can just get the image component then, I guess. And we can say button dot color is equal to left click color, and then I'm not checking if it's equal. Sorry. If it's the right click color. Okay. Just give that a second. And we can say that the left click color is red and the right click color is pink. Just make sure that the alphas are up, because for some reason, well, it's because it defaults at 0, 0. So I shouldn't have gone for pink probably. It's too. How have I gone for too bright colors? Let's go for some darker colors. That, yeah. So if I go left click red, right click blue, right click blue, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. You get what I'm doing there. And obviously you can override them. Now, if I was to actually go and press enter, it doesn't count because that's just an on-click. It doesn't. I've not pressed left or right click, so the keyboard input isn't doing that. But obviously, the left and right mouse buttons are changing it as I click between them. So obviously, you can read which button they've pressed. But you don't want to have. Basically, the reason you would do this is you don't want an update function saying every frame, you know, if input.getKeyboard mouse button 0, do this left, and then obviously if you did want to check that they did the left click, you then have to do a check. Hey, is it inside this thing? But the difference is this handles whether it's inside or not, and then it tells you, whether it's right or left click. And then on event data, you can also get like the position, or you can get the game object that did it, so on. Like if you're dragging and dropping, there's so much more. There's an iDrop handler, iDrag handler. You could say, just for the end of this video, I pointer exit handler needs its own function. So in the pointer exit, you could just say destroy game object. Why not? So you can say when you click on a button, it does colors, and then when your cursor leaves it, we destroy it. Because why not? So yeah, this is where the video is coming off to a close. So obviously, I'm just going to say the normal things. If you like the video, then obviously leave a like and subscribe. It'd mean a lot. If you want any more videos on a particular topic, then just say. But oh wait, actually, I've just realized something. Because the event system, because of the grid layout group, as they get destroyed, they move a bit. So if I was to, yeah, if you move your mouse across, it actually goes really quick. But you get the point. I can left click, right click, leave it, enter it, and just call code basically, and do whatever I want. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You can do whatever you want with this. Anyway, so if you haven't already, subscribe, it'd mean a lot. Join the Discord server, links in the description. Help me on Patreon if you can. I think I've covered everything. Leave video ideas, more Unity videos. Ideas for games that you want me to do videos about, like how to make certain mechanics, or make this kind of game, make that kind of game. Just I need ideas for tutorials, and I'll be happy to make them. So yeah, thanks for watching, and goodbye.